everyone. Здравейте. Okay, you're not sleeping, this is good. So I'll keep in English because they asked me to do it in English. First of all, in the lights of the motto of the conference, innovate, accelerate, and celebrate, I would like to bring you to the future of your car, to the future that you don't know right now, but will come. So you have opportunity to think about the car in a completely different way, or thinking about your car in a completely different way. We're going to talk about a transformation of the industry, a transformation of companies. And let me start, who is Ampere? Ampere is first European intelligent, pure EV player. What this means? It's a division of Renault Group focused on electric vehicle, which is the coolest trend, and focus on all the electronics in the car and changing the car from a classical architecture with many devices to a high-speed networking systems where the performance does matter. Looking forward in a day where the car will be fully autonomous and will be a mean for transportation from point A to point B, we need to consider us as passengers, not as drivers, and we need to consider us as a central point in the car. And I'm head of cockpit and connected for Ampere, Renault Group, so I make sure that your future is very enjoyable and you have enough time to celebrate, to enjoy it, and innovate and be productive in the car. So, today we'll talk about what does it mean a software-defined car, which is very interesting. We know wheels, tires, and so on, but we'll talk about software portion of it. We'll talk about a new way of thinking of who are our partners. They are not anymore we buy parts, you supply parts. They are already a software-defined parts. We're going to talk about software-defined hardware. So now, how hardware can be software-defined, but we'll understand. And we'll talk about what will happen after point of sale, after the car becomes yours or somebody else's car. Later, how we'll make sure that it continues to be modern, up-to-date, and usable. Let's talk about software-defined vehicles. First of all, when we think about the next generation vehicle, we need to think about the vehicle as an arena of capability of cloud computing and onboard computing. And we are talking about merging both worlds, bringing the cloud in the car, but also allowing the car to be the next thing that you are using. So we starting from the bottom line, where you cannot define a competitive, modern, constant up-to-date vehicle without selecting powerful hardware, and therefore we have very good partnership with Qualcomm. Then you need to find a way to deal with the big players on the market who have the capability to transform the industry. Think about 5 years ago, or even 7 years ago, how was the radio looking in your car? The central screen. A radio with some buttons, you can change the station, and that's it. Just a few years ago, I had the opportunity with my colleagues here in Bulgaria, in my former company, to launch the first domain controller on the market with Mercedes at that point of time. And that was first of its own transformation of digitalization of the cockpit. And we have Linux operating systems. And now, most of the new cars on the market, they use Android as a central screen for infotainment, with capability to connect to the store, with capability to download your preferred application, with capability to stream Spotify or whatever from your car. And Renault has it already on the market. If you buy the high-end screens and so on in Renault Group, it have it. But it's due to partnership with Google. Such a modernization of the cockpit cannot happen without the right choice of partners. And then we all use our hands-free, right? We use the telephones, we say, we are so binded to our phones, even the new generation, they don't know how to live without a phone. I had the pleasure to be in a place where there was no connection with my kids, and somehow we realized that there are board games which we never played in our life. But the importance of us digitalizing our life with assistants in the car, with the capability to have the latest and greatest map, is completely different feeling, completely different experience. Think about how many of you have embedded navigation in the car and how fast the map become obsolete. How fast the businesses who are developing, growing, are updating the maps, and is your car map up to date constantly? I'm talking about embedded car navigation, right? So this is why when you have the right selection of the industry, when you have the right selection of the technology, you can always be up to date. And again, Google Maps is fully integrated in recent Renault vehicles. So you don't need to connect your phone. It's there. Your account is there, your wife is there, your digital footprint is in your car. And if you change to another car, you have it with you as well. So therefore, to define a software vehicle, it is a matter of thinking. It's a matter of how and what you offer to the customers to make their life and experience a little bit different. So therefore, there are three big companies that joined effort to make this together: Renault Group, Google, and Qualcomm. And together with Google, we are developing the next big thing similar to Android called CarOS. That will be the cluster experience, the safety aisle where you can have cluster information, vehicle speed, and so on. Until autonomous driving take it over, right? So let's talk about software-defined partnership. How does it work with the classical models? You buy something or you get offer for something, you buy it, the part comes. This is how it works in automotive industry today. In many cases, the car is assembly of parts from multiple suppliers. But we see even competitors, they try to vertically integrate as much as possible. But the biggest differentiator is the software stacks. Being able to come up fully with your IP, being able to monetize customer experience, even post-point of sale. So therefore, the traditional model says, I buy from you and you deliver to me, does not work in the industry. They work for simple parts, but does not work for complex parts, does not work for parts that you want to enhance the experience of the user. So we're talking about huge models, huge opportunity. As I mentioned, you start with different vehicle architecture. We're talking about zonal computing. What this means? You have two, maybe three, in best case two, supercomputers. You can consider that as servers. They have really quite a lot of compute power. And then you have local experience type of devices that manage actuators, manage things that move the things, your pedal brake or turn signal activation or your lights in the back of the car so the others can see you and so on. And then you abstract that. You say that's just the hardware. And based on that, you drive modern operating system, systems that are flexible, that allows you to move features back and forth. Because what you want to do is to be able to add contents in the future. Many times, due to regulation, due to customer desires, the car need to modify, car need to change. Maybe you don't realize, but every new car has more and more European regulatory and legislation expectation. On one side, I'm sure you know about the gas, the emissions, the Green Deal, and so on. But on the other side, about safety, about sharing data, about collaborating. Because all of us, while driving, we can help others drive safer. I see something on the road, my front collision camera is seeing incident, reporting this incident. The next car, 30 meters behind me, from the cloud, get the information, says, hey, pay attention. There is something going on. You don't need to even to press the button. I'm sure you use Waze to report police or something saying, okay, there is police hidden on the left, on the right, but that will become a natural choice. Because you also need to think in perspective. And this is why innovate. Tomorrow, you're not going to drive. Right? Tomorrow, the car will drive itself. So the car needs to be capable to understand what is ahead and how to drive you safely from point A to point B. It's just a matter of thinking. It's a matter of innovation. It's a matter of defining the right partners and technology. And such a technology cannot happen without a cloud computing, cloud services, and so on. And then you're in an industry where all of you operate. That's not anymore automotive industry. So, let's talk a little bit about software-defined hardware, and I'll come back again to cloud and things that are more familiar to you. In a high-end vehicle, a car that is currently on the road, full of feature, you usually have between 60 to 100 devices, electronic devices. Some are small, some are big, some communicate less data, some communicate more data, but it's quite a lot. And if you want to have constantly modern car, it's almost impossible to keep the software of all these 100 roughly devices up to date. Because you need to keep maintenance, you have a huge supplier network that need to keep software for you, to provide updates and so on. And in many cases, due to regulatory expectations, things change and you cannot keep updating the car. Right? If you compare with consumer electronics, what we all used to, how often your telephone is modern or effective or productive. Think about that. How often you personally change your phone? How many change the phone every year? Let me try to see that. How many change your phone every year? Okay, not so much, or maybe I'm not seeing due to the projectors. How many change your phone every 2 years? How many change your phone 3 years? Every 3 years. Good, good, good. Every 4 years. Okay, simple question. What you do with the phone after you change it? You try to give it to somebody to recycle with the hope it goes somewhere in some poor country, but they don't care about that, your phone anymore. Even the poor country, they want big display, modern stuff and so on, right? Now, transfer it to the wife. The telephone costs, this is not telephone, the telephone costs 1,000 euro, more modern. How much costs a car? Nowadays, 40, 50,000 euro, it's a good car, right? So what you do 3 years later with your car? Do you, for scrap? Do you send it for scrap? No. I hope so. I mean, they are rich people, I get the point, but not everybody would scrap a car 4 years later. So this is why it's essential for all of us to think about how to keep this car 10 plus years active. Because every car producer expects every part supplier to be able to produce minimum 10-year parts plus 10 more years in case after end of production of the car. So this means your car, in the best case, would be able to receive OEM parts minimum 13 to 15 years, best case. So this is why if you buy the latest model, you have 15 years. If you buy it before it changed the model, 10 years, right? Be clear. And that's a transformation that we all need to understand. So therefore, we're talking about two main issues, or high-performing computers and peripheral devices. The peripheral devices should be as simple as possible. They should manage all actuators, accelerators, devices, and so on. I'm sure you go outside and you see how they are backward, like spaceship, right? And that's because these LEDs that are behind are managed individually. If it was a bulb on and off, you would not make these nice effects, right? But all this cool stuff happened because of that simple device. And these simple devices, they will keep be simple, the peripheric devices. But the central devices, you have like two overcomplicated systems that can exchange content in between each other, that would be able to transfer compute power from one to the other. If you do not have space, time, you will move it to the other device just to ensure. They will be connected with very high-speed communication. We're talking about gigabit now in the car, on the market, up to 10 gigabit communication in between these two issues. And they'll have unheard for the year of sale compute power, similar to your iPhone or your Android phone and so on. So therefore, there are two main computers. In the best case, there could be three, as I said. One would be everything around cockpit, which I'm leading, the cockpit experience. And the second is everything else, autonomous driving, body, chassis, electronics, and so on. So this is why in the era of hardware-defined, you need to come up what you want to offer from software, how you define what you want to do, how you define the use cases to move things around, and then early enough, just to be clear, very early enough, you need to talk with the silicon vendor who produced these chips to give you the capability, the power, what you would intend. Because the silicon vendor, the chip vendors, they need a certain period of time to produce these chips. Then you need a certain period of time to introduce them with your partners who produce hardware and develop in parallel the software. So you need forward-looking statements, something that is 4, 5, 6 years ahead. And what I like in my job is that we are always talking about the future. I live in the future, right? The negative side of being in automotive industry and talking for the next generation vehicle is that when you go to automotive exhibition, you are very tired. You say, I've done this many years ago. That's not cool thing. And especially for me, it's very difficult to select my car. Just to give you, that's impossible. I says, no, that's not for too old. I want something more modern and so on. So therefore, when you think about what you do today, how many of you go and select and talk to the chip vendors on your cloud server, what capability they will deliver to you, and before they produce the chip? You're using it as virtual environment for you, right? And why? Because when you have the backend server, when you have cloud infrastructure, the hardware is also for you invisible. You don't care. There is already enough virtualization technology that allows you not to think about that. And that's what happened. The consumer electronics, the modern stuff from the future, come in the car. But you need to understand, there is a major difference. I know that there are some folks from automotive industry who are a friend of mine. They know the difference. How many of you put your iPhone or Google phone, Android phone in the fridge? In the fridge. Hands? Okay, how many in the freezer? Minus 18. I don't see hands. But in the automotive industry, we freeze it to -40. Because you want this electronics to work in the North Pole, in Finland. Right? So therefore, when you design hardware, it's not just about a hardware that can do my job, but it's a hardware that can survive harsh conditions. From -40 to Sahara plus 85. Right? 85 is hard time in the modern electronics, just to let you know, because they need cooling and so on, which come up to the conclusion that these hardware need to survive, need to be cooled. These are very powerful chips, and we are going to a next generation thing called liquid cooling. So actually, all these two supercomputers in future will be liquid cooled. It's not only the batteries, I'm sure you know about the batteries, but also the hardware. Just because they'll have so much power and energy in order to make your experience to the next level. 2 years ago, there was a conference, and Joro reminded me about my statement, where I was talking that what's happening on the market is 16 displays in the car. All the cars do not have 16 displays, just to be clear. But they are such a cars. And you want to manage them from one device. One device, 16 displays. All these displays here, managed by one device in the car. Because it's easy to maintain, it's easy to update. If there is something break, it's easy to replace. So therefore, the hardware as the core of the business is very essential. You need to think forward what I need as features, as software capability, what I need as a product results, how I design the complete car infrastructure to be simple to manage and drive, how I work with my partners who are the silicon vendors, because they are also giants. I know some of the colleagues here from a big company, which is also silicon vendor, how they produce the parts, how I industrialize it, and how 2-3 years down the road, everybody enjoy the cool features in the car. So it's a matter of thinking. And therefore, you start with software-defined vehicle, you start with software-defined partners who you want to play with, then you need to work with the software-defined hardware. Who are your hardware vendors that can deliver this capability? Hopefully, you are ready to launch a car, you're selling the car on the market, and you come up with the bugs. You know, there are always bugs. We live in the software world. And we need to be sure that the car can be maintained up to date. The car can keep being updated. Car can continue to be in regulatory compliance. And now, I would like to talk to you about containers on wheels. I'm sure you all know the containers and what this means. But it's very important that we need to understand that we have connected vehicles that have already abstracted hardware, that have over-the-air update, that have data orientation, have been connected to the clouds and so on, then can deliver not only experience from the in-car computing power, but also from the cloud computing, and also need to be flexible. And then, we don't need to invent the hot water for the second time. I mean, this is Bulgarian expression, but we don't need to innovate second time for things that already exist on the market. We need to see which are the technologies that IT world is offering for such a capability. Auto was not invented by automotive industry. Data orientation was not invented by automotive industry. So therefore, we need to ensure that we have the right orchestration, how to deploy. We're using DevOps. I'm sure that DevOps was not invented by automotive industry. Several years ago, when we discussed DevOps, you are the only one in automotive world who was talking about DevOps. Then we need to talk about microservice architecture, capability to change one while everything else works, containerization, Dockers, clear, and maximum use of open source. Again, nobody should, in this world where you have high competition, in this world where you have desire things to go fast, nobody have time to learn twice. If it's already identified, if it's already found, you need to use it. And open source is the right thing, but you also need to contribute back, right? Keep in mind that many of the things that I talk about, CarOS, talking with silicon vendors, they become public. Although that we innovate with the tier ones, with the Google, with Qualcomm and so on, whatever is innovated become public and accessible to the others. Many years ago when Renault made the partnership with Google, infotainment Android system was not mature. And Renault was one of the first to bring this as officially on the market. So here I'm in the area where you are the experts, guys, and I'm smart user, let's say like that, smart follower. We're talking about all the capability of IT world to package certain information, to be able to abstractly deploy it in the cloud services, in the super machines, on the vehicles, and if there is a problem, to ban it and isolate it. Why? Think about just a few slides ago. I was telling you that the car has the digital twin. In our partnership with Google, we have the capability to run on the target, but everything else cutoff in the cloud, emulators and so on, and I can simulate fully the car or the cockpit of the car in the cloud. My speed is different. I have the advantages for all the AI, Gemini, Copilot capability to bring speed in my development. You always have mistakes if the virtual world does not match with physical world, but they are much less. So therefore, the technology that you are used to is fully applicable for automotive industry. And we need also the right orchestration, because we are talking about hundreds of thousands cars per year, minimum, to several million per year, depends on the brand, on the deployment, and so on. And we are talking about a capability to deliver update packages instantly. We don't need to wait. They are pioneers in this business, in the automotive world, and we need to be to the level where you are used to as a customer. Now the customers have higher acceptance of defects. And for us, it's really important to consider this as opportunity to get faster, but we still need to deliver better results. Often we see defects, we said, okay, we accept that, next update will fix the car, and so on. And I have a few more minutes to come up to a most critical slides I would like to say, is if you think about the software, we're talking about software-defined future. We have a car, a vehicle that is fully defined by software. You have a business model and partnership with OEMs and giants that are defined based on the software principles. We are talking about hardware that was defined due to means of the software. And we are talking about a deployment and maintenance capability that will keep the car up to date. So we're talking about a software-defined company. I personally think, because this is our future, it's going to be software-defined industry. And sooner or later, everything we do will matter a lot more for you, because you will be enjoying the pleasure and the time to do the things right. This cannot happen if we all, as contributors, as friends, do not collaborate and do not have software as core of our thinking. innovate, celebrate, accelerate, and drive the future by software. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to talk in front of you. And I would like to use one of the phrases by Eleanor Roosevelt. He said, yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery, today is a gift. This is why it's called present. And let me further develop that. You cannot do anything from history. It's fact. It's there. If you spend your time, your life to talk about the past, somebody, mistakes, and so on, you're wasting your time. Right? Just because it's a fact. It's written in the books. You know, can you tell Asparuch, who settled Bulgaria, go to a little bit more west and settle it somewhere in the middle of Europe? No, you cannot. But we need to use the maximum of the knowledge that we have. And we also need to realize that future is really mystery. We don't know if things would happen. We do our best to define the future, but we don't know what will happen. We don't know things that does not depend on us. 90% of the things that's around all of us does not depend on us individually. We control only the 10%. So therefore, focus on the today, learn today, be focused today, spend your time here today. Focus on the things, be proud of what you do today. Because with what you do today can change the future, but cannot change the past. And therefore, look positive, think forward, and drive the future. That's opportunity for all of us to be on the next level and to be accelerate, innovate, and drive the future. Right? Thank you all. I'm Velizar Dimov.
Thank you, Velizar.
Thank you.
Thank you.